Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers have agreed to a 3-year extension. He's now going to remain the head coach in Pittsburgh until the year 2027, man. And a lot of Steeler fans have mixed emotions about this extension. And NFL fans are having a hard time understanding why, because they feel as if all us Steeler fans should be excited and happy that we're extending a head coach that's yet to produce a losing season. And the thing with Mike Tomlin is that he has overachieved his last couple of years in Pittsburgh, because for the last 4 to 5 years, there's been a lot of media heads before the start of every season that always says the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs. This is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season, and he always finds a way to overachieve. Last year, this man went to the postseason having to start Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, and Kenny Pickett as his starting quarterbacks. But the issue with Mike Tomlin is his lack of postseason success. And for the other 31 NFL fans out there, they don't understand the expectations that comes with coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For any other fan base, having a winning season, making it to the playoffs is considered a successful year. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise, thinking of all of the history that comes behind putting on that black and gold uniform, having a winning season is bare minimum. You want to know why? Because that's what is expected. What determines how successful a season is for Pittsburgh comes down to the level of success they have in the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, which means it's been nearly a decade since Mike Tomlin last produced a playoff win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's the big reason why there is such a divide in the Steelers fan base when it comes to Mike Tomlin. 50% of the fan base defends him, saying that he hasn't had a good roster, hasn't had a good quarterback situation ever since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And the other 50%, they're tired of tolerating mediocrity and complacency, because at one point, the Steelers used to be the gold standard for what a great franchise in the NFL is. A Super Bowl contender year in and year out. And over the last decade, when you think about the playoff losses that Mike Tomlin has suffered, I will never forget the 2011 wildcard loss to Tebow Mania when he hit Demaryius Thomas on the right sideline, first play of overtime. Of course, nobody's going to forget when the Steelers lost at home in 2017, coming off a first-round bye to the Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Blake Bortles. And, of course, 2020, when they got upset by the Cleveland Browns when they had Baker Mayfield and the interim head coach. There's been a lot of shortcomings from Mike Tomlin in the postseason that simply has been inexcusable, in my opinion. Am I one of those people that's going to come on here and say the Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin? No, but I'm also not somebody who's going to defend him and just act like this dude is just the greatest coach since sliced bread. You can make the excuses for him not having a good quarterback, but he's part of the problem for why the Steelers' quarterback play has been severely lacking the last couple of years. He wanted Mitch Trubisky to be his starting quarterback. I heard Mike Tomlin tell the announcers during one of the little production meetings that they had leading up to the Colts game that the reason he decided to start Mitch Trubisky was because he has experience being a franchise quarterback. What has Mitch Trubisky ever showed us throughout any point of his career? He was a capable franchise quarterback. Never. If anything, the Chicago Bears were able to win in spite of Mitch Trubisky. And who cares if he made it to the Pro Bowl? Then you draft Kenny Smallhands Pickett, who I was never a fan of when he was coming out of Pitt. And I don't believe that Mike Tomlin completely was allowed to have a say in who was going to succeed Big Ben. I definitely think that the ownership, the Rooneys, had a say in that. They also had a say in him hiring Matt Canada. Matt Canada was not a Mike Tomlin hire. And even then, Randy Fichtner, The previous offensive coordinator before Matt Canada wasn't really Mike Tomlin's preferred OC. He only promoted him to OC because that's who Big Ben wanted, because he didn't get along with Todd Haley. Mike Tomlin, going into this season, has to win a playoff game. And I think it's severely unlikely that he's able to do so. And I think there's a strong chance that the Steelers have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin this year, for the very reasons why I wasn't thrilled for him to get a 3-year extension. This dude is great when it comes to being able to win with less. But part of the reason why he always has to win with less is due to his poor judgment. He's Stevie Wonder when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Any coach that has the audacity to say that Mitch Trubisky is a franchise caliber quarterback, I severely question your judgment. And there are Steeler fans trying to hype up old man Russell Wilson. This dude is not good. If your whole argument for Russell Wilson being able to be solid for Pittsburgh is because he had good stats, I don't want to talk to you. Because Russell Wilson had better stats than Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts in 2023. And if I was to ask you, out of those 4 quarterbacks, who would you take? None of us would be taking Russell Wilson over any of those 3 guys who he had better stats than. Justin Fields has a lot of potential, but he's still an unknown commodity. That's why the Chicago Bears decided to part ways with him and replace him with Caleb Williams, who has yet to take a single snap in the NFL. If Russell Wilson was so good, the Denver Broncos wouldn't have took the NFL's largest dead cap hit in history to get rid of him, and he damn sure wouldn't be playing on a veteran minimum. So fuck what the stats say about Russell Wilson. The dude is not good. Could he be better than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky? Yeah, but is that saying much? Is him being better than those previous quarterbacks good enough to get the Steelers an AFC North title with a healthy Lamar and Joe Burrow? I don't think so. With how difficult this schedule is, you're going to need way more than great coaching to be able to win in this division. The Browns were able to win with old man Joe Flacco, thanks to the injury that Joe Burrow had, and the Steelers not really being that great. I love Mike Tomlin as a person. He's a great leader of men, and he's a really good coach. But just because he's a really good coach doesn't justify the Steelers any reasoning to keep him around for any longer without him showing us he can win in the postseason again. It's been 8 years since we've had a playoff win. The standard at one point used to be the Steelers were Super Bowl contenders year after year. But ever since 2011, the new standard has been winning seasons and first-round exits in the wild card round. That's not acceptable. It's the same standard that Dallas Cowboy fans have. And you can say that maybe the expectations have become slightly unrealistic due to the rebuild that the Steelers have had to go through over the last couple of years, offensively, rebuilding the offensive line, making the transition from Big Ben to somebody else, and they still have yet to find Big Ben's successor. Russell Wilson definitely isn't it. He's just a Band-Aid for the lingering issue the Steelers have had at the quarterback position ever since Ben Roethlisberger hung up the cleats. Mike Tomlin can't be trusted to make the right decision when it comes to finding a capable starting quarterback who can win in arguably the toughest division in the NFL. It doesn't matter if he has a winning record against Lamar Jackson, because what does that mean when it comes playoff time? The difference between the Steelers winning and losing against the Buffalo Bills was because Buffalo had a better quarterback. When Josh Allen ripped off that 50-yard touchdown run and he just absolutely obliterated a Pittsburgh Steelers defender, ran them flat over, that was the difference in having a great quarterback and having below average quarterback play. And what had me the most confused is how it took Mike Tomlin the final month of the season to realize that Mason Rudolph was the best quarterback on the roster. I don't trust his decision-making. His clock management is questionable as well. If I was Pittsburgh, I would have told Mike Tomlin, we're going to wait until the end of next season to extend you. You can be a good coach, but that doesn't mean that your message with the said team that you spent so many years with hasn't become stale and dry. We saw it with Andy Reid in Philadelphia. You can't say, man, the Steelers can't fire Mike Tomlin because there's not a better coach who can replace him. Who are you going to get to replace him? Bill Belichick? It's not about finding if there's a good enough candidate to replace him. It's about getting in somebody who's new, who has a new message, who has a better chance of resonating with the franchise than what Mike Tomlin is right now, because his words are able to elevate this team to a certain extent. What the Mike Tomlin fan club overlooks is how people peak in life. And once you reach a certain peak, that's it. There's no way you can elevate past that. We saw Andy Reid peak in Philadelphia. The furthest he was able to get that organization was a Super Bowl appearance and a loss to New England. And after that, they were never able to come close to winning a Super Bowl ever again. Andy Reid, just because he didn't win in Philadelphia didn't mean he couldn't win elsewhere. He went to Kansas City, and he was able to win championships with Patrick Mahomes. Now, having the greatest quarterback of all time helps you, but Andy Reid has played a large part in Patrick Mahomes becoming the GOAT that he is today. Same thing with Tony Dungy. When Tony Dungy was coaching for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he got fired and replaced for John Gruden, who in his first season replacing Tony Dungy took the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl and won it. Tony Dungy went to Indianapolis and he won a championship and hosted a Lombardi with Peyton Manning. Just because you're a great coach doesn't mean that excuses you for not being fired, dealing to underachieving, when the standard in Pittsburgh has been championships and the standard has went down. Mike Tomlin always preaches the standard is the standard, but yet the standard has regressed every single year under him. We went from expecting championships to now tolerating winning seasons and first-round playoff exits. That is not what the standard used to be in Pittsburgh. The standard is never supposed to go down. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were a dynasty thanks in due part to when you played Mike Tomlin Steelers in the postseason, you knew that was a guaranteed win for you because you knew Mike Tomlin's defense wasn't going to be able to slow down Tom Brady. If you say, well, Mike Tomlin didn't have a great quarterback, JT, that's why we've lost the last couple of years. What about when he had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Big Ben all in their prime? They were still coming up short. You see, what I wanted the Steelers to do this offseason was part ways with Mike Tomlin and hire Jim Harbaugh. Some people think it's idiotic, but I thought it made perfect sense. Jim Harbaugh, in the 4 seasons that he was coaching for the 49ers, won more playoff games than what Mike Tomlin has won in the last decade. He took the 49ers to 3 straight NFC championships his first 3 years and 1 Super Bowl appearance. So if Jim Harbaugh, who hasn't coached in the league for just as long as Mike Tomlin has been unable to win in the playoffs, has more postseason success than him, wouldn't that not have been a better replacement? The Steelers need somebody new who has a new message, who has a different outlook on how things should be ran, because Mike Tomlin's ways of winning are outdated. Russell Wilson isn't good, and neither is Justin Fields. Yeah, this is a pretty good team when you look at everything else, minus wide receiver, but the Steelers are competing for 4th or 3rd place in the AFC North this year. You only were lucky enough to finish and have the kind of season that you did thanks to Joe Burrow's injury, because we knew once he went down, that was Cincinnati's season. But even then, Zach Taylor was still able to keep Cincinnati afloat despite not having Joe Burrow. But with him coming back, I doubt the Steelers are going to be able to finish ahead of Cincinnati, and they damn sure are not about to finish ahead of Baltimore. Since Lamar Jackson has been the starting quarterback for the Ravens, he's had the 2nd best win-loss record in the NFL behind who? Patrick Mahomes. When you have a great quarterback, a franchise caliber one at that, it makes things a lot easier for you. And I will never forget when the Steelers passed up on Lamar Jackson in 2018 for Terrell Edmonds. It still makes me sick to my stomach thinking about that. The reason why Steeler fans are so divided over Mike Tomlin. And why they want to change is because they're tired of the complacency, they're tired of the mediocrity, and they're tired of the standard when really the new standard is being okay with winning 10, maybe 11 games and getting sent home to Cancun in the wild card round. Think about some of the playoff losses that the Steelers have had the last couple of years. You lost to Jacksonville at home in the divisional round, led by Blake Bortles. You lost to Cleveland with the interim head coach and Baker Mayfield. The Mike Tomlin fan club can use the whole he's never had a losing season, so that shows consistency all they want to, but it also shows complacency, and it shows you why the Steelers should move on. They've peaked. And that's why this fan base is divided on Mike Tomlin, why they get upset when people keep using the whole he's never had a losing season argument, because all his winning seasons are at this point are participation trophies. Because when's the last time the Steelers have ever been mentioned in the Super Bowl conversation? Even this year, this is the best team that Pittsburgh has had on paper in the last 5-6 years, and yet they're not expected to finish no worse, no better than what, fourth, third place in this division. And even if they do find a way to make it to the playoffs, how far are they going to go? At worst, you make it to the divisional round. Cool. But after that, what are you going to do next season? Are you going to bring back Russell Wilson, running back with him another couple of years? Because he's only getting older and he's only getting worse. Russell Wilson's skill set is based on getting outside the pocket, improvising with his legs. And the older you get, the less athletic you become. There's no way the Steelers are going to win anything meaningful with Russell Wilson. They call him Mr. Unlimited. Well, last year under Sean Payton, he looked pretty limited to me. And Justin Fields is still a big question mark. He can't read defenses. He struggles with accuracy. He's a better runner than he is a quarterback. At this point, you might as well use the Lamar Jackson running back jokes and put those on Justin Fields, because that's the only thing Justin Fields is at this point. He's a running back playing the quarterback position. I'm not against Mike Tomlin getting this extension as if next year he's able to finally figure out who's going to be his franchise quarterback. But if he's still going to continue to be Stevie Wonder when it comes to quarterback evaluation, then he needs to get gone and get the pink slip. I don't care about never having a losing season. When does it matter to win championships again? Tell me, when can the Steelers be considered a Super Bowl contender again instead of a contender to barely make it into the playoffs?